Hey there, MPCs. Welcome to Rules of Cool, where we interview very special guests, creators, gamers, designers, and world builders. I'm your host, Rem, and today we are talking with an absolute legend to the sci-fi universe, author of the Dune prequel series, fiction writer for Star Wars, StarCraft, Titan AE, The X-Files, and countless more, Kevin J. Anderson. Stay tuned because you won't want to miss it. Kevin has also donated an ebook copy of the original Dragon Business novel for one lucky winner tonight. Type hashtag RemPC in the chat for your free entry to win. And don't forget that you can get bonus entries by subscribing and donating bits through the Twitch chat. Every 100 bits gets you a bonus entry, and subscribing gets you 7 whole bonus entries. Now, in Rent Malturnus news, the big news of tonight is about Kevin J. Anderson's own Kickstarter, live right now, Dragon Business and Skeleton in the Closet. Think The Princess Bride meets Dirty Rotten Scoundrels in a fantasy caper series. With tons of limited and exclusive rewards, merch, stretch goals, and the tried and true talent of Kevin's work, you don't want to miss this Kickstarter. Check out the link in the chat and back it right now. Now, time to get right into our conversation for this week, so stay tuned for MPCs. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to my returning guest, Kevin J. Anderson. It's so good to have you back here. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm busy and bouncing around, but that's the way I love it, because otherwise I'd like bored. And so that's why I fill up like 30 projects at the same time, and I love it. So
Awesome. It's from the intro that we just heard, clearly you have not kept busy between writing for your own projects, for Star Wars, for Titan AE, for everything that you do, not to even mention Dune, which is my personal geek out moment when I was like, wait, I'm talking to who?
You can mention Dune, but I'm floored you mentioned Titan AE. That was so long ago, and we did one book each for those. So wow, that's a blast from the past. But
well, and I think last time we had you on, you said that you were I can't remember the exact number you gave me, but on Wikipedia it said over 140 books, and I think you're well past 200.
Yeah,
right?
it was 175 a while ago, because my wife made me count them so that we could put an accurate number. And I said, but in 2 weeks it's not an accurate number anymore. But so it is. I think Amazon calls it a crap ton of books or something like that. So that's the official.
Cool.
It's a lot, and there's a lot of different kinds, whether you like big science fiction or creepy vampire horror or comedy horror or fantasy, epic fantasy. I just had a huge epic fantasy trilogy that I finished, thereby proving that some people actually do finish their fantasy series when they write them. And we'll be talking today a bunch about a really funny, humorous fantasy series I've got, and Star Wars and X-Files and Batman and Superman. And I am the biggest professional fanboy that you'll ever meet.
I just in awe. And speaking of that, one of the questions that I actually had for you is, I bring on a lot of game developers, a lot of writers, and you've written for so many huge franchises that have defined the sci-fi genre. So how did you get in with these projects?
Well, the funny thing is I didn't even try. I didn't aim for that. I wrote original books of my own. My first one was sort of a science fiction murder mystery thing that I published, and then my second, it was a trilogy I sold, and that was a role-playing game fantasy trilogy that I wrote. And then I did some techno thrillers, and what I didn't realize that I was doing is that I was kind of auditioning in the background. And what I was doing was turning in my books on time every time, and I wasn't a pain in the butt to work with, and I always did the edits that people asked me for. And my editors kind of liked working with me because just don't tell anybody, I'm going to lower my voice, but sometimes authors can be a real pain in the ass. And publishers who deal with authors that are unreliable or that they're prima donnas and stuff, they just don't like to work with them anymore. But I wasn't. I love doing it, and I worked with my editors. And then I got a random phone call from my editor at Bantam Books. One afternoon, she just called me up and said, "Hey, Kevin, do you like Star Wars?" And I said, "Well, of course I like Star Wars. Everybody likes Star Wars." And she said, "Well, do you want to write 3 sequels to it?" And that's how I got started, because the Lucasfilm was signing with Bantam Books to do Timothy Zahn's first book, which was the first of all the new Star Wars books. It either had just come out or it wasn't coming out until a little bit. So there was no Star Wars line. I didn't know anything about it. And she asked if I wanted to work in the Star Wars line. And I, long and hard for about a nanosecond, I considered it. And I said, "Well, sure, I'd love to." And so that, working on the Jedi Academy trilogy and then the Tales of the Jedi comics and then the Young Jedi Knight series, I eventually did 54 projects for Lucasfilm. And
Wow.
then that led to Chris Carter, who created the X-Files, read my Star Wars books, and he said, "I like these. Let's get Kevin to write X-Files books." And then from there, I did Star Trek stuff and things for DC Comics and Marvel Comics and Dark Horse, and then I got connected with Brian Herbert for the Dune books, and just keeps me busy. So
That's awesome. Wow, that's what a story to just start doing your own thing and being your own person, and then be headhunted and be like, "Hey, come do the cool things." Or the nerdy things, I guess, because back in
I think back then nerds in the early '90s, being nerdy was not cool. And in fact, if you were an author who wrote Star Trek books and Star Wars books and things, you were kind of considered cargo class passengers. That you're just like this hack writer writing things for Batman and Superman. You're not a real writer who writes critically acclaimed books that sell 100 copies. And but that things have changed. That
for the better.
Way for the better. When I grew up and I was the geeky guy, I didn't know anybody who read comics or read science fiction. I was in a small town in Wisconsin, and I got mercilessly bullied and wedgied and all that because I read science fiction books, and good Lord, there were no girls who read science fiction. and we were just sort of doomed to be comic book reading monks, and fortunately things have changed for the better. So
awesome. Well, I jumped right in because you kind of just tossed me the first softball there. But usually my first question is, what is your history as a gamer?
Well, see, here's the fun. I mentioned that the second trilogy that I did was a RPG fantasy trilogy. And when I was in college, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons with a group of my friends. I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, and our dungeon master was a woman, one of my very best friends, who is Christine Catherine Rush. And if you are readers, science fiction, Christine Catherine Rush has also published about 180 books. She's won the Hugo Award, the Nebula Award, the Seamus Award, I forget what the mystery one is, but she's published tons of them. But we met in a creative writing class, and we kind of hit it off. So then I think she's the one who said, "You want to play Dungeons and Dragons?" So we got a kind of a group of friends, and we played every Sunday night with our hex graph paper and our colored pencils and everything. And we played that just a D&D campaign. And what's funny is I used that campaign to write my novel. It was a trilogy called Game Earth. And this Game Earth, it's a trilogy. The Game Earth trilogy was my D&D campaign when I was in college. And this was published by Signet Books in 1989. It came out forever ago. And that was one of the first lit RPG things where it's the players on the outside who've been doing it for a long time and they kind of are losing interest and they want to quit playing their weekly game. But when they quit playing their game, all the characters inside the game see their world falling apart because nobody's playing the game anymore. And so they have to use the rules of the game to hold their world together. And then they start fighting against these outer gods that have abandoned them. And the terrain in the book, the terrain is in hexagons. Like you're walking through a desert, and then you find a black line, and you cross over into a swamp, and then and so that book came out, and it was out of print for a while. So then we got the rights back. I have my own publishing house called Wordfire Press. And we reprinted it, the Game Earth trilogy, all the little hexagons there. So we reprinted it. And then just a couple of years ago, I got connected with one of the biggest lit RPG indie publishers called Aethon Books. Some of you might know about Aethon. And then they loved this idea. And I said, guys, you know how to sell lit RPG way better than I do. And so they reissued it. They changed the title. They got an awesome new cover. And so it's now reissued this trilogy. It's called Roll, Play, and End for the 3 books in it. So I think this is an amazing cover, and I love showing it off.
I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but is that one of the books that's available as a reward on your current Kickstarter?
Right. So we'll be talking about my fantasy Kickstarter, and in fact, I added as a stretch goal, and Aethon Books provided me with the ebooks. Every single backer, and I'm probably in the next 20 minutes, we're going to pass that stretch goal. Every single backer will get a free ebook of the first book in my Gamer trilogy. So even if there's nothing else you want on supporting the campaign, you can at least do it to get your free.
Yeah. So if you're crazy and want nothing else. Awesome. So one more question before we start really kicking into the Kickstarter. So you said that Game Earth was the second series that you did. What was your first? How did you first get into writing?
Well, the first one was called Resurrection Inc. And there's Nikola Tesla playing around with a marker in the back. He's a kitten and he loves to play, and he does not like me to be on Zoom. So it's better that he's playing in the background. Once he gets bored with me not playing with him, he'll go and use the litter box so I can smell his displeasure for a while. But anyway, Resurrection Inc. was my very first novel, and it's sort of a gothic horror, science fiction murder mystery set in the future where instead of building robots to do all the dirty work, they just sort of jumpstart dead bodies. So they're like high-tech zombies. Because you're all here, you're a perfectly good machine. So they just like restart you and send you off to dig ditches and handle toxic waste and everything. And my character on page 1, he's found murdered in an alleyway, and they jumpstart him, and he comes back as a servant unwittingly to serve the guy who killed him, and he starts getting flashbacks. And so that's Resurrection Inc. And that was my first one. And I followed it up with this fantasy trilogy, and then did some other things, and then got asked to do Star Wars, and the rest. Nicola's full of energy there.
I love that. History, so. Awesome. Oh, that's so cool. All right. So far we have 4 books that I need to pick up. Let's see how many we end up with at the end of this.
Well, there's 175. We're not going through in chronological order, are we?
That'll be the rapid fire top quiz at the end of the show. So let's talk about your new Kickstarter project. You funded in 13 minutes, and you were 2.5 times your original funding goal within the first hour. So congratulations, first of all.
Thanks. As we're recording this, we just passed 2 full days, and we are now at, what is it? We are now at 8.5 times our funding goal, and we had 259 backers or something like that. So it's really cool about how publishing has changed. It's a literal a watershed. It's a game changer for all. And since it's a gaming podcast, we can call it game changers. I'm still publishing a lot of my books with traditional publishers, and I've done a whole lot with all of my main things. And my Dune books are still published with Tor Books, and I just had a steampunk novel coming out from ECW Press, a Canadian publisher. But there's a lot of books that I've written that were out of print and nobody wanted to reissue them. So I formed my own publishing house to just bring my own books back. I had lots of fans who wanted to read the old stuff, and hey, if they go and buy them at a used bookstore, I don't get a dime from it. So I might as well publish them myself, right? And I know my fan base. I'm pretty good with art, and I didn't like a lot of the covers that some of my old publishers did. So I wanted to commission new artwork, and I really, in the past almost 15 years, I've built up quite a presence as an indie publisher and an indie author, and we do a lot of that. But Kickstarter, this is only my second Kickstarter ever, and I had a bunch of friends recommending it, and I got pushed into it. And I had, for my first one, which was last May, I have this really wonderful series called Dan Shamble Zombie PI. It's like the Rockford Files meets the Addams Family. I mean, he's back from the dead and back on the case, and he solves cases with mummies and werewolves and vampires and ghosts, and it's just cornball and stupid and really silly stuff. And I did 4 books with the trad publisher, Kensington Books. And they liked them, but then it just kind of fizzled and they weren't interested anymore. So I started publishing some of them. I got the rights back. I reissued them myself at Wordfire Press. And then I wanted to do a new book in the series. And I thought, well, let's see if the fans really want this or not. And I ran a Kickstarter for the new Dan Shamble book. And it blew everything. It funded, by the time it was over, it did like 23 times what our ask was. And everybody loved it. We got brand new covers for it. The whole series launched. And that got me a whole new readership for this series. And I just loved it so much that I went, this is a way to go, because, well, seriously, this was a series that the trad publisher had given up on. And so if Kevin Anderson, wanted to write a new book in the series, there is no New York publisher who would want it. Nobody would take book 8 in a series that they didn't have the rest of.
Right.
So the only way to do it would be to do it for myself. And I really wanted to do it. And I think I made the right choice because everybody really backed it so much.
Awesome.
And I had another one that I wrote a few years ago called The Dragon Business, which is like The Princess Bride meets Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It's a group of medieval con men that go from kingdom to kingdom selling their services as dragon slayers, but there's no dragon. They fake the whole thing. They plant like big footprints around, and they burn down some peasant hovels, and they start rumors about giant monsters seen flying in the night. And then they go to the king and say, oh, and we'll slay that dragon for you for 100 gold coins or something. And they've got a whole bunch of like taxidermied stuffed crocodile heads that they've stuck deer antlers on. And it's a hoot. It's just a real stupid con game. And then, of course, there really is a dragon. They don't know what to do. And that's this whole band of lovable scoundrels. And I loved that. I didn't really like the cover the original publisher did. And so I got the rights back again. And then we reissued it at Wordfire Press. But it still was... It wasn't the cover that I really wanted, but I've always wanted to do a sequel to it. And I wanted to do I wanted to continue the adventures of this medieval conman. And I had a sequel in mind called Skeleton in the Closet. And it's our guys, they go to a castle and they're playing their scam and the usual stuff. And then a not particularly bright orc army swarms over and invades the castle and takes it over. And so they're stuck hiding in the secret passages of this castle, and they've got to get rid of this orc army somehow. And so they decide to haunt the castle because orcs are very afraid of ghosts, because you can't bash ghosts with the club and they don't know what to do with them. And so our gang haunts the castle. It's kind of like Die Hard in a castle because they're running around and doing stuff. And that's the sequel that I wanted to write. And that's when I thought, let's do a Kickstarter like I did for Dan Shamble. I wanted to get new artwork for the Dragon Business and get artwork for Skeleton in the Closet. And I just put that together as those two books are my Kickstarter, and then a whole bunch of other goodies going on. And I do want to make a note because I think we'll be showing what the actual artwork is on some of these. So I use a team of really talented artists and designers that happen to be located in the Ukraine. And I had commissioned them to do these new covers. I'm the art director. I said, this is what I want. And they're really great. But I was originally going to launch this Kickstarter in November, but the artists were delayed because they were running into bomb shelters and they were losing power and they were having air raid sirens and Russian missiles all over the place. So they asked for a little extra time, and of course I gave them the extra time. But as you can see, I hope we're showing it, that they just did fantastic artwork. I love what they did, and I love supporting them. I mean, I'm giving them work. Some of their workers are, artists are refugees that they've left Ukraine, and I just want to support them and doing this. So they're the ones that created the cover art. And they gave me the rights to use it. So we also use that artwork to make like coffee mugs and T-shirts and things.
Oh, neat.
On the Kickstarter. So
well, I'm personally very glad that you waited. Thank you for supporting those artists who clearly have need with their war-torn country, and that was the right thing to do. So thank you for that.
Well, and here's the other silver lining to it. Because we got delayed from November until January, in the meantime, I managed to write the whole draft of Skeleton in the Closet. So the draft of the book is done, which means that I'll be able to get it all finished up and sent out to the Kickstarter backers a couple months sooner than I would have projected otherwise. So
awesome.
That's kind of neat. And what I love about this stuff is you are on your own schedule, and it's your responsibility as a creator. I've got to get those coffee mugs done. I've got to get the chapbooks done. I've got to get the at a certain, like, one or two more stretch goals. Then we'll have enough money that I'll go into the recording studio and I will do the audiobook of it. And I've done all the Dan Shamble audiobooks, and I just love doing it. I've got a dumb humor voice when I want to, and it turns out great. So I think that this is terrific because it gives me as a writer the option to do books that I really want to do that I wouldn't be able to do if I was stuck in the normal traditional publishing brackets.
That's really great. So to be able to put all this together and bring it into this Kickstarter, which I believe you said as well, that the backers on the Kickstarter page, that the backers will have access to the books long before the public does?
Well, see, that's when I do it. My projected date of giving all of the Skeleton in the Closet, all the books, everything is like June. That gives me 6 months to write it or finish writing and editing and produce everything. I will probably be faster than that, but I just want to give myself some elbow room. Sure. But if you're just random customer who wants to buy a copy of Skeleton in the Closet, we won't make it available for months after the Kickstarter people get it. So if you want to read the book as soon as you can, you'll get it maybe 2, 3, 4 months sooner if you are a backer rather than if you wait for it to show up on Amazon.
Awesome. Okay. Now, so not only on the Kickstarter can you get Dragon Business and Skeleton in the Closet, you've also the Kickstarter is also participating in the Make 100 project. Can you explain that?
Yeah, for every January, Kickstarter has it's some promotional thing that if you make 100 of something, limited of something, then it's a certain category called Make 100. And what I decided to do was make a signed, numbered chapbook of the very first Dragon Business story. And this is really kind of cool because the story that I wrote, that's kind of the core idea of the conmen and the fake dragon slaying and stuff. That was the first short story I ever sold in my career for $12.50. And it was in like 1981 or something like that. So my very first published short story. And I'm reprinting that in a chapbook with some illustrations. And I wrote a special foreword for it, kind of explaining everything. And in fact, I even found my photocopy of the cash check for the $12.50. And I'm gonna include that in there. Just here's an image of it. And anyway, there's only going to be 100 of these chapbooks, cool. And you can get they're only at the $20 level. So I didn't really want to make it too expensive. I just wanted it to be something fun. And so there's that in there. And like I said, the coffee mugs and the t-shirts and there's another really neat thing that writers or creators might be interested in. So when I do all of my writing, here's my writing tool. I have a digital recorder and I go out hiking every day. I live in Colorado and I have trails up in the mountains all over the place. And I have my outlines and I just go out. Here's chapter 5 and I know what's going to happen. And I walk and I just dictate my stories. And so I know what's going to happen, but I'm making it up. I'm doing the descriptions. I'm sometimes laughing at my own jokes when I go, oh, that's a good one. And sometimes dogs bark at me and sometimes punching through the snow. So that's how I dictate the book. And then I send all the files to a typist, they transcribe them, and then I get it into a Word file. But at the $100 level of the Kickstarter, I will give you all of my original raw audio files so you can listen to me write this book from start to finish, chapter to chapter, as the dogs bark at me, as the train goes by and blasts its horn, as I'm crunching, as I'm snorting about a stupid joke or something like that. So it's sort of like getting the audio book before the book is done, but it's me dictating, and it's just a real unique experience to get all of the chapters. And I'll go, oh wait, back up and add this thing, or I forgot to put this foreshadowing in there, and it's just the whole book. It's like 45 audio files, and that would be for some people that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I think that's a cool like fan thing, but also like you said, for creators to like get a glimpse into your process, I think is really interesting. Now I am imagining like the random camper in the mountains of Colorado being like, there's that weird guy that talks to himself every day in the woods.
It used to be like that, but I go far from other people who are going
okay.
But the other thing is that I've been doing this all my career. So, decades I've been dictating, even back when they were micro cassettes instead of digital recorders. But I used to get the weird looks, but now everybody's talking on their phones or using Bluetooth or something like that, and nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Well, I mean, back then, I used to go to. I love Death Valley. I lived in California, and I would go out and stay in a little lodge in the desert, and I'd love to just kind of sit there on the porch with my laptop and see the desert mountains, and I'd be editing things. And people used to come up to me and like snarl and say, "You're on vacation. You shouldn't be working. Stop bringing work here." And I would go, first off, go away. And second, I'm not on vacation. I'm on the job. And this is my office. What does your office look like, idiot? And, I mean, but nowadays, people have their laptops all the time, and they're always working at Starbucks, and they're always working. So that whole idea of going somewhere and you should be on vacation and not working is thankfully gone away, because some of us freelance people don't have 9-to-5 jobs, and we don't have like, oh, I've put in, it's the weekend and I don't do any writing on the weekend. Well, no, that's not what happens. And we're working all the time. And, this Kickstarter has been keeping me busy nonstop, but I still have a comic script to deliver. I teach grad level classes. I've still got papers to grade and all kinds of stuff. So I've got interviews to do on Zoom sometimes. And,
And take that, Death Valley Karens. Like,
yes. So,
people complain.
I mean, it is bad in the sense that we've become more working all day, every day. But on the other hand, unless I'm working on an assembly line in a factory somewhere, I'd rather be working at home at 8 o'clock at night when I want to, or at, if you're an early riser, work at 5 a.m. when there's no noise around, or at 1 a.m. when everybody's gone to sleep. And I love the fact that it is okay to be more flexible now. And I get more done. As I said, when we were just getting up to this, there's only 40 hours in a day and you can only do so much. And
yeah, that was the question of would Kevin be willing to game with us for a one shot? And he's like, I have all of my hobbies already defined. That's totally fine. So tell us more. So I saw even more rewards were available. Like there's sets of other books that are signed, and like there's the high level tiers where that have some pretty good stuff. I won't spoil it because I want you to say it.
Well, when I'm doing this, now you got to understand, I have a couple of employees and we have an online web store. I think the link will be up somewhere on this, and we ship out signed copies of my books a lot of times, and I do pre-orders if I got a new Dune book coming out, and so we kind of have the infrastructure in place to send things out. And because I own a publishing house, I know how to print a chapbook and I know how to put the books together. So that is a kind of an important thing. And I don't want to, when I'm gushing about how great the Kickstarter thing is, I want to warn people who are listening, going, "Oh, that's a cool idea." It's kind of like when you walk into Home Depot and the guy comes up and says, "You know what? You can remodel your own kitchen. It's easy. Just do it all yourself." Well, most people can't. I've got experience. I know how to do this. So don't just say I'm going to publish 10 books and give it to my Kickstarter backers, but I've never published a book before. So anyway, we've got kind of the infrastructure there, and I have a lot of books, and a lot of them are, like I said, I've done this big epic fantasy trilogy called Spine of the Dragon, and I thought, well, dragon business backers might like this big dragon epic fantasy, so I've got signed hardcovers of that you can buy. Well, you're not buying on Kickstarter, you're supporting me, and I'm giving you a reward. So it's a subtle difference. Like I said, those original raw audio files as I dictated it, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I think the coolest one is, I'm still waiting for sort of a rich sugar daddy who wants this, because I think it's the coolest idea that I came up with. That so it's not, I can't say that it's an NFT, but if you think about it like a collectible NFT, that if it's at the $5,000 levels for, so some of you very, very set gamers out there who've got, anyway, you tell me what kind of story you want, and I will write an original Kevin J. Anderson story for you.
That's
brand
so
new
cool.
story that I've never written anywhere. And I will print it out and I will sign the manuscript for you, and I'll send you the manuscript and then delete my files, and I will never publish it anywhere else, and nobody else will ever see it. Or you could show it if you want, but it's sort of like your absolute exclusive. This is like a musician doing a song for you and then deleting the file. That nobody else gets to publish this story. It is special for you, and that's why it's so expensive, because I can't sell it anywhere else or do anything else with it. But if you're like on the stalker end of the fan spectrum, that might be a and there's Nicola, who's expressing his displeasure that I'm on.
Get off the computer, or I'm gonna leave you a present.
I brought my toy here. I want to play.
Okay, so
anyway, so that's kind of a fun one. And and this is a cool. Our first stretch goal in fact, we blew past it before I could even post the stretch goal. So that's how. But at the 12,500 level, which we're well past, I promised that I was going to put together a brand new collection of just all of my funny short stories, all of my science fiction and fantasy and horror funny short stories in a whole collection called The Funny Business. And it'll only be available to the backers of this campaign. They can add it on and buy either a hardcover or a paperback or an ebook,
Cool.
whatever they want. And because we reached that level of funding, now it is worth my time to put that collection together and typeset it and print it and everything. And so that is, nobody else can buy it. It's just here as this part of the campaign until, I don't know, months after the campaign is over, and then I'll put it up as my regular stuff on Amazon. But this is an exclusive for the backers. And so my wife and I just sort of sit and brainstorm these things about, oh, we could add this or we could do this. And frankly, I've got a ton of stuff that we can put in there. And as we get to another,
at least 175 at last check.
Well, but this goes to my earlier soapbox about the indie publishing and things. Now, like the Star Wars books and things, I don't own those, so I can't give away the free ebooks of those. But anything that I've published, I can do whatever I want with it. So, in fact, I just put up the next stretch goal that we're going to get to will be the first collection of all of the Dan Shamble short stories. So you'll just get a free ebook of all the Dan Shamble short stories if we get to, I think it's the $20,000 level, and then I got a whole list of books that, and I've even gone to some other authors, and they're giving me like, here, if you reach this goal, then take 2 of my books and put them up there.
Ooh.
So there are people that come on and back this for a $5 ebook, and they're going to walk away with about 12 books in their hands because of it. So
that's awesome. Speaking of 12 books, I did see a mystery box reward. Tell me about that.
That's actually being very popular. So you can't see it. I'm in my basement, and I've got shelves and shelves of all kinds of like old paperbacks of my fantasy novels or my techno thrillers and short story collections and things that I have that I've either got new editions of them or I just bought extra copies at some point. And so it's pretty cheap. I think it's at the $55 level that I'll just pick 12 random books from my shelf. They'll be paperbacks or hardcovers or whatever I feel like, and put them in a box, and you'll get 12 books, and they're all signed. And that's just, now they might be like book 2 in a trilogy or something like that, because that's what I have extras of, but that's what you get. And it's a surprise box, and who knows what it'll be. That's
neat. I've been very tempted by that one when I saw it. I was like, ooh, and like you said, for $55, you're getting 12 books. That's a really
and
nice
I'm
deal.
Getting room on my shelves.
Yeah. That's the best. I like this strategy for a garage sale for the future.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
So I was just kind of looking, and I just went, I mean, they've long been paid for, so it's not like I need to make money at it. And I thought this will maybe get me a bunch of fans for other series, or just people will give them away to their friends because maybe they don't like techno thrillers, so they give it to their neighbor or something like that. And it's a Johnny Appleseed kind of thing, and maybe we'll get more readers that way.
Neat. All right. So is there anything else you want to share about this Kickstarter or series that we haven't covered already?
Well, I mean, I'm very happy with how it's gone. It is, I mean, our we funded so fast, but I put a low level on it because that was just strictly to pay for like the cover art from the Ukrainians and stuff. But really what this has to be is, I mean, my kind of fuzzy target goal is it needs to be what a New York publisher would have paid me to write the book, because this is what I do for my job. This is how I make a living. And I'm writing Skeleton in the Closet because I want to. But if I wasn't doing Skeleton in the Closet, well, then I would be selling a book to Tor Books or something like that. And so So it's not just the $2,000 that I need to make. It has to be sort of what I get paid for writing the book too. And who knows what that is? I mean, I've already written it, so I've invested it because I believe in myself. I believe in my fans and supporters because I know they'll like it. And I get to write something that is really fun for me, and Kickstarter gives me the ability to do that. I mean, sure, I could always just self-publish it and it would be okay, but this gives it a lot more like a platform to go out on, and
a lot of lift.
And
awesome.
then because the first Dan Shamble one last May was so good, I'm going to have to write another Dan Shamble book at some point. So that'll probably be my May or June Kickstarter. We plan.
Excellent. Now, I just thought of a question about your publishing company. Do you just print and publish your own novels, or do you contact other authors and publish their works? How does that work?
Well, we have published a lot of other authors. We over the past few years, we had really blown up. We've got like 400 different titles that we've released and 100 and some different authors. But as I refer to my earlier comment of there's only 40 hours in a day, and then my earlier comment when I said in a lower voice that some authors are kind of tough to work with. So with so many things going on, and I'm writing a monthly comic series for Boom. I've got other books that are currently under contract. I'm a full-time professor in a graduate program in a Colorado university. And I'm also working on, and I'll say what I can say on this, but I'm co-producer on the new Dune TV show. I'm worked on the 2 Dune movies. I've got a bunch of other Hollywood stuff going on, which is very time consuming and a lot of BS, and sometimes it actually happens. And so because of that, we're kind of scaling back on publishing other people's stuff, and we're using WordFire as just like a platform to get my own stuff out. It's literally the 40 hours in a day thing that I just don't have the energy to devote to everything, and what can I cut out? So that's WordFire Press. So please don't send me all of your gaming fantasy fiction that you wrote. I don't have a space for it. But I mean, I love it and I love doing it. There was and I'm publisher of WordFire Press, so I've got like a publisher hat I can wear as well. And just depends on who I'm trying to impress at the family picnic, you know.
Fair enough. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your energy and everything that you've done. Not just like with this Kickstarter and with Dune currently happening and stuff like that, but really the impact that you've had on sci-fi as a whole and shaping what it is today. So thank you very much for that.
I'm doing what I really love in about 12 different directions. So I'm
awesome.
So thanks for letting me just rant about it for a long time in an unstructured interview. I just put a coin in me and I just start talking because
it's great. I was scrolling because I was like, he already covered that question. He covered that question. We're good to go. Okay, good. So we're, as long as we hit all those big major points to talk about you, your work, and what you're putting out. Other than the Kickstarter page itself, which the link is going to be dropped in the chat, where can people follow you to learn more about you, your work, and your next Kickstarter project?
Well, the way that I really communicate most is on my Facebook pages, because it gives me time to I can put images, and I'm not limited to 240 characters. But so if you just search for official Kevin J. Anderson page, or that's the one to look for. I have a personal page, but Facebook fills it up at 5,000 people, and I can't add any more people. So, and my Twitter handle is the word "the" and my initials, so it's the KJA. And my website is wordfire.com, which really needs to be updated. But the part you guys might be most interested in is we've got the web store, and it's wordfireshop.com. And you can get signed copies of like almost everything that I've got there if you're interested. And
Awesome.
we try to keep that. So
My dog's very upset that anyone else might get in on that great deal.
well, maybe he's going to chase after Nikola Tesla in the back.
It's true. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Well, I'm sure we'll see you next time for your next project. But don't go anywhere, Rem PCs. We will be right back. Special thank you to Kevin J. Anderson for his time and energy and clear enthusiasm for this project and the sci-fi industry. Don't forget that we have a wonderful giveaway of the original Dragon Business novel on ebook. Thank you so much to Kevin J. Anderson for donating such a cool prize. Type hashtag RemPC in the chat for your free entry to win. And don't forget to get bonus entries and impact the game by donating bits and subs in chat. All funds help us to pay our cast and crew and keep producing content. You can also pick up t-shirts and merch at our Etsy store at www.remalternus.com/Etsy. Exit Vector is the aerial combat minis game coming to Kickstarter this year. Give your pilots some much-deserved attention as you use this rules-light game on its own or as part of your cyberpunk role-playing game. Get your rigor on with Exit Vector and follow the link in chat to check out the project. Don't forget to enter your email. And Subversion, the new cyberpunk fantasy TTRPG by Fragging Unicorns Games, is coming soon to Kickstarter. Build your community and subvert authority at every turn in this gritty Neo-Babylon setting. Follow the project now before it goes live at the link in the chat. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you next time, RemPCs. Bye.